Okay, you ever look at someone's work and think, wow, this is genius? But then you learn about the person and it gets complicated.
Extremely complicated. It's like admiring a stunning building that you discover has some deeply unsettling foundations.
Exactly that. And that's kind of what we're diving into today. I'm Hari,
And I'm Kimi.
and we're here to guide you through this, well, pretty dense document we've got. Our mission today is to pull out the absolute key insights, the kind of surprising bits, and the crucial context about the American poet Ezra Pound, a truly complex figure.
Yeah, his life and legacy are incredibly tangled, as this source material really lays bare.
So think of this as your focused look, your shortcut maybe, to understanding someone's central to 20th century culture and politics, all based exclusively on the information packed into this single document you've shared.
It certainly maps out a fascinating and often disturbing trajectory, from literary pioneer to, well, some very dark places. It really makes you wrestle with contradictions.
Okay, let's get into it. The document starts us off with his birth, 1885, way out in the Idaho Territory.
Which already feels a bit unexpected, doesn't it?
Totally. And here's a real eyebrow raiser from the get-go in this material. Despite becoming vehemently anti-American and embracing fascism later on, his family roots go way back in America. We're talking 17th century English settlers, a Quaker, even a Puritan who helped write Connecticut's first constitution.
It's such a stark contrast the document highlights right away. These deep American origins versus where he ended up.
And that sort of nonconformity, you see it pop up again in his education, which the material describes as pretty unconventional.
Definitely not the typical path.
Mm.
He went to a military academy, then Penn, but the source says he switched to non-degree status just to avoid classes he thought were irrelevant.
Right. He was on this quest for poetic knowledge and didn't want anything getting in the way. It apparently led to clashes. There's this amazing detail in the source, him winding a giant tin watch during a lecture by the head of the department.
You get a real sense of that rebellious streak early on. And it had consequences, as the document points out. His teaching job at Wabash College in Indiana lasted about 5 minutes.
He called it the sixth circle of hell, didn't he? The material explains he got fired partly over smoking cigarillos near the president's office, which was forbidden, and, well, a woman being found in his room.
Yeah, the landladies weren't pleased. So not long after that, he was off to Europe. And the document mentions he self-published his first poetry collection, Aluma Spento, in Venice, sort of launching himself.
And that move to Europe, especially London, was huge for him. The material really digs into this period. He dives into the literary world, gets interviewed, even gets a joke written about him in Punch.
He becomes this key figure in modernism. The document emphasizes his role in co-founding Imagism. You know, that focus on direct treatment of the thing, musical rhythm over strict meter.
And here's something maybe less known that the source brings up. His inspiration for Vorticism, another movement he was involved in, came partly from East Asian art he saw at the British Museum. It shows how widely he was looking for ideas.
Absolutely. And, separate from his own writing and later politics, the document makes it clear how incredibly important he was as an editor and champion for others.
Oh, massively. His work on T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland is legendary. The source says he cut it by about half, and Eliot dedicated it to him as Il Miglior Fabbro, the better craftsman.
And he did crucial early work for James Joyce, too, helping get a portrait of the artist as a young man serialized. Joyce apparently called him a miracle worker.
The source also mentions his friendship with Hemingway, who saw him as a mentor and wanted his editing input. It shows the kind of literary weight he carried.
But then, and this is where the document shifts significantly, it starts tracing his political views, particularly the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, this is really difficult territory. The material shows this wasn't just a late life thing. It appears in his writing as early as 1910, and it got worse, tied up with his idea that usury finance capitalism was the cause of war.
And the document is explicit. He blamed Jews for World War I, used terms like Das Leih Kapital, which, chillingly, Hitler also used. We need to be absolutely clear here. We're reporting what's in this document, these disturbing views it details, not endorsing them.
It's crucial to state that. This path, according to the source, leads him to meet Benito Mussolini in 1933.
Which seemed to be a huge moment for Pound's ego, feeling recognized by a head of state. The document suggests this really cemented his embrace of Italian fascism. He started writing books promoting it soon after.
And then comes World War II. The document details his actions. Hundreds of paid radio broadcasts from Italy for the fascists.
Just reading the description in the source is shocking. Attacking the U.S., Britain, Jews, praising the Holocaust happening in Italy, telling American soldiers to surrender.
It's undeniable collaboration, laid out right here in the material. And the consequences detailed were severe. Captured by Italian partisans, handed to the U.S., indicted for treason.
And that period in the detention camp near Pisa. The source describes incredibly harsh conditions, including 3 weeks in an open-air steel cage.
That's where he's believed to have started writing the Pisan Cantos, incredibly, on toilet paper, according to this account.
Then, deemed mentally unfit for trial, he ends up incarcerated for over 12 years at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, the psychiatric facility.
The document describes his life there, the visits, the shifting diagnoses from psychopathic to narcissistic, eventually psychotic. And even while institutionalized, he wins a major literary prize for the Pisan Cantos, which, as the source notes, caused a huge uproar.
And, well, his associations inside the hospital were also controversial, as the document highlights. Friendships with people like John Casper, a Klansman and segregationist.
It points to that unsettling link between some of Pound's ideas and far-right extremism. Even Hemingway, who campaigned for Pound's release, said Casper should stay locked up.
Eventually, though, the campaign by figures like McLeish and Hemingway worked. The source explains the treason indictment was dismissed, and he was released in 1958.
And his first act arriving back in Italy. The document vividly describes him giving a fascist salute to the press and declaring America an insane asylum.
His last years, back in Italy, seem marked by decline, possibly dementia, moving between his wife Dorothy and his longtime companion Olga Rudge.
There is that late conversation mentioned in the source with Allen Ginsberg and Michael Reck, where he reportedly called his anti-Semitism the worst mistake I made, a stupid suburban prejudice.
He also apparently said any good he did was spoiled by bad intentions. It adds another layer of complexity right at the end.
So after going through all this material, what are you left with? This document paints a picture of Ezra Pound as this undeniable literary force, someone who changed poetry, but also someone deeply entrenched in hateful ideology and treason.
It really forces the question, doesn't it? How do you reckon with that? How should we approach the legacy of someone whose artistic genius is so tightly bound up with profound moral failings and destructive beliefs?
It's not an easy question, and this document doesn't offer simple answers. Just the complicated facts definitely gives you a lot to mull over.
It certainly does. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.